We have with us three eminent panelists: Admiral Jayannath Kolambage, Vice Admiral MP Muralidharan, and Mr. Nahyan Reza Sabriya. Admiral Jayannath Kolambage is a retired four-star admiral who was the chief of the Sri Lankan Navy from 2012 to 2014. He's a graduate of Defence Services Staff College in India and Royal College of Defence Studies, UK. He holds a PhD from General Sir John Kotelawala Defence University, Sri Lanka. He also holds an MSc in Defence and Strategic Studies from Madras University and MA in International Studies from King's College, London. He has been a guest lecturer in several key universities and research institutes in China, Bangladesh, India, Japan, and Pakistan. He was also the former Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies, Sri Lanka. Admiral Kolambage held the portfolio of Additional Secretary to the President of Foreign Relations. Admiral Kolambage was also the Secretary to the Foreign Ministry from August 2020 to May 2022. Admiral is presently the Sri Lankan Ambassador designated for Indonesia. We have with us Vice Admiral MP Muralidharan. He retired in February 2013 as the 19th Director General of the Indian Coast Guard, a specialist in navigation and direction with a postgraduate degree in Defence Studies. He has a career of over 4 decades in Indian Navy, and he has held several key operational and staff appointments, including command of 3 warships. As flag officer, he commanded Maharashtra and Gujarat naval area and was also the first commandant of Indian Naval Academy and chief of personnel of the Navy. Post-retirement, the Admiral was appointed as the member of the Armed Forces Tribunal at its regional bench at Kochi, an appointment equivalent to a sitting judge of the highest court of a state, the High Court. He is also a keen student of strategic and defense-related issues with special focus on maritime affairs, and also is a member of various strategic study societies and institutions. On the panel with us, Mr. Nahyan Reza Sabriya. Mr. Sabriya is a research officer at Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies. He has finished his undergraduate and postgraduate courses from the Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka. He has worked as research data analyst, research associate, and research assistant for multiple projects of several organizations in the field of international relations, including the Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, International Labour Organization, South Asian Network on Economic Modeling, World Bank, and the United States Agency for International Development. His areas of interest are international security, security policy, extremism, and resource manipulation, cybersecurity, and transnational organized crime, on which he has authored and co-authored several publications. I hand over the proceedings to the moderator.
My fellow panelists, I know normally by the end of the seminar, and that too we've been having very hectic discussions over the last day and a half, starting with last evening. By the time you come to the final session, it's always difficult to grab attention and to keep the attention focused. But I'm really happy to see so many here. What we have discussed over the last day and a half, let me sum up some of it, because when we talk of prosperity and security in the Bay of Bengal, really any progress, economic or otherwise, can only take place when the area is secure and security is there. We'll make it more interactive so that it becomes more interesting. And mind you, it's the last session, so conserve your energy. We'll take on from here. Now, actually, for a mariner like me, and there are two of us on this panel right here, nothing has been more exhilarating to see the world shifted focus towards the maritime arena towards the end of the last century. Now, as we are situated in the Indian Ocean region, what comes back to me is the words of a 19th century American admiral, Admiral A.T. Mahan, who actually said that whoever controls the Indian Ocean controls Asia. This ocean is key to the seven seas, and in the 21st century, destiny of the world will be decided on its waters. Of course, a slight change that has happened over the last 100 years, or rather towards the end of the 20th century, has been that the Indian Ocean has been expanded to look at Indo-Pacific as a whole and not merely as an Indian Ocean region. Now, this aspect was put across very succinctly by Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Shangri-La Dialogue in 2018, when he said that the destiny of the world will be deeply influenced by course of developments in the Indo-Pacific region. And he said India's own engagement in the Indo-Pacific from the shores of Africa to that of Americas will be inclusive, promote democratic rule-based international order, and we'll work together to keep the seas and space and airways free and open, secure from terrorism, and as cyberspace free from disruption and conflict. Now, while it's been touched upon in parts over the last day and a half in various decisions, but seas today, the fact that 70% of the earth is covered by sea, and nearly 2/3 of the population live within 100 miles from the coast, and 150 of our 193 states are coastal states. 80% of the cities and nearly all major trade and financial centers are close to the coast. Now, with newer technologies and communication that has developed, transportation also increased. And over the last decade or two, there has been so much interlinking of economies between nations. Now, this is where the seas become important, because virtually 80% of the world trade by volume and 70% by value happens across the seas. And just to quote a few statistics, there are more than 54,000 ships, estimated about $450 billion, creating 14 million jobs across the world. And the trade across about 35,000 billion. Now, apart from transportation, as we discussed in the economy today, there's fish, metals, minerals, all these are in the sea and will really go further. Now, Indian Ocean has got nearly 33% of the world's population in the Indian Ocean region, and about 50% of the maritime trade, and 70% of the global trade in oil and gas, which actually is a lifeline. Because the Persian Gulf is situated here, 60% of the world oil and 26% of natural gas emanate from there. Now, you take up Indo-Pacific, it's nearly 60% of the world's GDP and 65% of the population. Now, coming to Bay of Bengal, you'll agree that it's really in the middle of it, and the waters of Bay of Bengal actually connect Indian and Pacific Oceans, and it links all the regional initiatives that have been taken place, whether it is ASEAN, SAARC, or what we are discussing more today, BIMSTEC. Now, really, all the countries that are there, so the security of the region will have an impact not only on the countries of the BIMSTEC and across the world, actually. And if I touch back in history, some of it was said yesterday by one of the speakers. Now, strategically, during the colonial era, initially it was Great Britain and Holland which held sway. Subsequently, at the end of 19th century, it became a virtually British lake. And all the battles that took place in World War I and II, there were naval battles in this area. Therefore, and with the emergence of Southeast Asia developing, the link between South Asia, China developing further, the entire area of Bay of Bengal has really become a very strategic value. And while we need to we got to ensure safety of the sea lanes of communications, because Bay of Bengal actually connects the Malacca Strait, which goes into South China Sea. Now, with China developing, so it is not only the little states here, but virtually affects anybody across this entire area. And one thing that we've got to keep in mind, because of its importance, you will find in this area, apart from the literal countries, you'll find all global powers, whether it's United States, UK, China, France, virtually everybody wants to have a say in this area. They are operating in this area. And while examining, one thing that we need to remember is China has been making its presence in the entire this area and beyond in the Indonesian region. And the strategy of establishing a string of pearls across has got its impact in this area. And what's also happening in the South China Sea in that area, they are doing what we call as the salami slicing, which means very incremental changes which may not be noticed much, but when taken as a whole, it affects. For example, it's creating a little bit artificial islands. The moment artificial islands created, it expands the exclusive economic zone of that country, China. So therefore, they are virtually claiming all of it. And you know, Taiwan, China problems, and they're virtually in the news every day. So anything that happens there, you can be rest assured that we are going to have an impact of it in the this region. So therefore, it's become a very important region. And well, we have devised about 5 or 6 questions of importance, which me and my panelists will take on. And from there, we can take on further. I will ask both the panelists the first question when I join them. What are the strategic synergies of Bay of Bengal countries and how could we build it up with Southeast Asian countries? I'll request Admiral Columbage to start first.
I'm delighted to be in this panel with Admiral Murugaran and our young scholar from Bangladesh. So it's great to be here. I will take up that challenge. I would say this is common to Bay of Bengal as well. This is a region of strategic competition, 2 words, strategic convergence, 2 more words, and strategic dilemma, 6 words, and strategic ambiguity, 8 words. So I can stop my talk with these 8 words. Right? If you look at what I said, I'm sure you will agree. We all talk about it, the strategic competition in the ocean. No other ocean has drawn this much of strategic attention than the Indian Ocean in the 21st century. Being 2 admirals, we don't want to prove Admiral Mahathir is wrong. And he said that more than hundreds of years ago, that whoever rules the Indian Ocean will dominate Asia, and Asia is the gateway to the world. I'm not sure about the second and the third part, but I'm pretty sure about the Indian Ocean drawing a lot of attention from the world powers in the 21st century. Whether Indian Ocean or Asia will rule the world is yet to be seen. But we do witness. Now, when you ask, sometimes one question was asked from me, do you really feel this strategic competition in your country? I said, sometimes we are the soccer field. The game is played. We are not in either team. We are not the referee. We are not even the line referee. But game is played on our field. Sometimes Sri Lanka is the punching bag for practicing boxing. Right? This is not only for Sri Lanka. If you Look at the Indian Ocean region. If we say countries or 58 countries, majority of countries goes through what I am we. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, this competition, convergence has given rise to a dilemma and an ambiguity we have never seen in the history. This is my point number one. But of course, we are talking about Bay of Bengal. Now, Bay of Bengal is critically important in this strategic game. Why is it that important? Because it is the connector between the Western Pacific and the Indian Ocean. Now, also, it is bordering a power block in Asia, that is ASEAN. I would like to say it has another border to another emerging power block in South Asia, but I'm not going to say that yet because South Asia is not yet emerging as an economic power block. Now, Bay of Bengal, if you look at the whole of Indian Ocean, the Western Indian Ocean, lot of troubles. There are somewhat uncovered states, unstable states like Somalia, Yemen, and trouble in Afghanistan. Syria is not far away. Iran's nuclear ambitions, border issues between Pakistan and India, all that is happening in the Western Indian Ocean or Arabian Sea, relatively a peaceful region. And therefore, it is of paramount importance that we maintain the sanctity of this Bay of Bengal region if we want to be a prosperous and secure region. Now, in the Bay of Bengal, yes, a strategic competition is there. State versus state competition is there. But I do not see any immediate collision between states. On the other hand, what we should be really worried about is the threat posed by the non-state actor or the non-traditional security threats, be it piracy, human smuggling, gun running, narcotic trade, illegal fishing. FAO very recently said nearly 40% of fishing taking place in the Bay of Bengal is illegal, unreported, and unregulated. 40%, as high as that. If we allow this kind to continue, soon we will not have fish in the ocean. So this is the predicament that we have. The threats posed by the non-state actors in the Bay of Bengal. How can we become a prosperous region unless we address this issue? Now, this threat posed by the non-state actors, I would suggest we look at it as an opportunity to unite, opportunity to work together. And we quite often hear the word cooperation. And I have been hearing this word for the last decade or so. But we need to move beyond cooperation now. We now need to collaborate with each other. But Lieutenant Guruvendra asked the question, how do we synergize the strategic issues in the Bay of Bengal? What are the measures we have? We have IORA, Ocean Rim Association. We have IONS, both are Indian initiative. Sri Lanka is a member of both. A lot of work has been happening. Then we have SAP, which is nearly 37 years old. And I do not know whether I should use the word SAP is dead or whether SAP is hibernating. Right? So we can't expect anything from SAP for Bay of Bengal specifically. However, having said that, I just want to bring another point before I move on to the next point. For the last so many years, South Asian region has been hearing this sentence. The least economically integrated region, less than 5% combined GDP is integrated. We have been hearing this for the last decade or so. How long more are we going to hear this same comment? Why aren't we economically integrated? And I would say South Asia is not merely trying to integrate but trying to reintegrate because we were linked through ocean trade, through culture, through religion, long before the colonial powers came to this region. Sadly, even 73, 74 years after the British left this region, we are still trying to connect or reconnect. But my point is, I would like to argue that if you try to handle all Indian Ocean issues under one umbrella, I think practically nothing will come out. So therefore, if we can focus the Bay of Bengal, I think that's the way to go right now. And of course, Bay of Bengal also has matured 25 years in existence, but very slow, retarded progress. The Secretariat came only in 2014, the Charter came only in 2022, but at least now we have an opportunity to make Bay of Bengal BIMSTEC work. And India is taking a keen interest in the role and the function of the BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC is increasingly focusing on maritime security as well. It's not only the technical and economic cooperation, but maritime security as well. So we have a robust, mature, a platform which we all can agree. We don't have a problem. So I would suggest that let us look at BIMSTEC as a vehicle which can carry forward synergy of our efforts to make our region more secure and more prosperous.
Thank you, Edward Columbia. I think it's very well summed up. Now may I request Mr. Gandhi to give his views. Let's get views from a young scholar, because sometimes you might say the maritime world is slightly colored. Yes, we are the deep blue ocean, but that's it.
Thank you, sir, for giving the floor. And I would like to first of all thank CPPR and SNS for giving me and all of us the opportunity to be here together and have the synergy among all of us. So, taking you from Sar's point, I would like to take the word synergy first of all. And I would like to start from here that how we can progress in the future. And some of the points have already been discussed, but if you look at the past, the transnational powers, the extra-regional powers, they have very perfectly utilized the opportunities embedded in the Bay of Bengal. Now, the Dutch East India Company has come into the point, as well as the British East India Company, and some data shows that the British colony, they extracted around 1/3 of the entire prosperity from this region. So we are talking about security and prosperity. So now it seems like kind of that we are the only people living around the bay who could not utilize the opportunity. So this is where we need to start from, and this is where we need to take the clue from. Now let us look at the institutions and regional arrangements. And first of all, let me clarify my academic background and work area that is very relevant. I am not someone who works on economics. Basically, I work on economic security. So my perspective also somehow relates to the security and the convergence between economics and security. From that perspective, we are having a new kind of idea emerging in the field of international relations, and that's called the idea of functional geography. So basically, we had the political geography and the geography itself, but now we are looking at functional geography, which are basically transcending the already constructed spaces. For example, example, we are looking at South Asia, we are looking at Southeast Asia, we're looking at Europe. These have been constructed for ages and years and decades. But now, what the change that somehow influencing these issues? And Orchid already said that STAR has already been 37 years old, and all of the organizations we are talking about, most of them basically were established in the the previous century. Now we have a new century. What's the difference here? Globalization has stormed us. That's the first thing. The globalization is there, and all of us are into that process of globalization. And that brings us to the new area of connectivity. And that's where we need to start from, because the new space, the new functional space, it is no longer limited in the border or inside the concept of the border. And now talking about the concept, I would like to refer to another issue about the Bay of Bengal or another opportunity. You see, the Bay has been constructed with physical and conceptual spaces for so long. And when we talk about physical, when we talk about abstract spaces, I also talk about cultural spaces as well. That's why I've been talking about physical and non-physical spaces now are also influenced by the idea of digital space. So we have the new opportunities. And we have been utilizing that. Look at the situation during the COVID-19. The South Asian countries, they have shown tremendous resilience in terms of their. And another very interesting interaction among us, if you remember all of us, it was indeed initiated by India, a conference among all the countries, if you remember that, and during the COVID-19 period. It shows that we are all connected. We are all connected even though all the differences. We just need to utilize and we just need to understand that we still have the process of integration amongst us. Now the avenues, whether how they can be, whether this have to be in one specific way or different ways or combination of multiple ways, we have to find those out. But there is another issue that comes up with the idea of security, and that's the idea of fear and reference. Very much related to the idea of security, competition, ambiguity, which have been mentioned as you have all about it. Now, when we talk about Southeast Asia, we mostly talk about ASEAN as an institution. But if you look at ASEAN back then, ASEAN was created out of the fear of communist intervention. The fear was that. But what happened? All the countries came together and they understood that, okay, we have to do something. We have this fear, we have this common and shared fear, and we have this common and shared responsibility together. We have to work for that. We have the fear right now, maybe not traditional sense, but we all have the non-traditional security threats. And we may not see them or we may not have data like the traditional security threats. They may not sound that much, they might not be having that much buzz around us. But the non-traditional security threats are maybe even more even more difficult to contain when it comes to compared to the traditional security threats. And the problem with the non-traditional security threat is you do not know when they're coming. You can look at the one country, you can look at many countries and look at the coastal nuclearization doctrines, arsenal build-up, and see that okay, this is how the traditional people is developing, this is how we can look at that. Although that is a clear security dilemma around the region and that's another issue. But when it comes to non-traditional security threats and non-traditional actors, we have different kind of ballgame because we do not know their next moves. We do not know which country is going to be affected by this. Look at the pandemic situation. We did not know that so many of the countries have to be prepared for this kind of situation. But now we are here. And we are only talking about climate change, we are talking about the climate risks and vulnerabilities in the future. But are we prepared enough for that? So that brings us to that situation that we have to be prepared for that. And it is as much as important for South Asia as much as it is important for Southeast Asia. And another important point is that both of the regions are very much interlinked and they have equal opportunities to share together. Let me give you an example of the World Bank data that I have found recently. You can see that even in the beginning of the last 20 years, the trade between the two different regions, it was around like 38 billion or so. Now it has gone ninefold up. So there were opportunities for both of the countries. And there is another estimation by the World Bank also done at the same time that if suddenly the multilateral cooperation or inter-regional cooperation stops, the South Asian region will be affected as the GDP will go up to whatever it is right now. That's for the South Asian nations to go for 1/3. So you see that it's not just about South Asia, it's also about Southeast Asia. So we have to collaborate because collaboration is the next option for all of us. We do not have any other options. And going back to the first point about globalization and connectivity, we are already together connected. We are in a situation, we have no other option but to understand that connectivity and come together for common responsibilities and equitable participation for equal. Thank you.
While we're still talking of pivot to between ASEAN and this, I would like to say that we need to look into the larger picture. ASEAN and BIMSTEC, we are just to each other. Yes, there are a lot of lessons we can learn the way ASEAN has cooperated and how that area has economically developed. That is something for us. But like as Admiral Columbia put it, we have been talking about this collaboration, but now we need to take things forward. And one of the threats that come out is today we are looking at non-traditional threats, or what we call the low-intensity maritime operations, whether it's piracy, gun and drug running, the whole lot of those activities. We discussed about the human aspects of people being transported across the oceans, etc. Now, these are all issues that we need to look at. And in the maritime arena, whichever part of the world you are, if you have an ocean next to you, you are neighbors to each other. You will recall in the 19th century, etc., they used to talk about a gunboat diplomacy. The ships used to appear to threaten a particular country, and unless they agreed, come back to it. Now that kind of era is gone, but we need to cooperate in areas where we can work together. And I would like to combine one or two issues. While the current geopolitics we have, we want to move forward to regional cooperation. But when we look at European cooperation, are we looking at only a small area, or are we looking at only ASEAN? So, is cooperation with ASEAN alone important, or do we need to expand it further? And similarly, a thought that can the BIMSTEC area, can we become a manufacturing hub? After all, you just look the other side, the Africa, that area, it's again a big market for finished products. So can we cooperate and collaborate on this? I would like the views of my panelists on this.
Yeah, can we be the production hub for the world in the future? One thing is, if we look at COVID pandemic time, all our economics were heavily impacted. And one of the main reasons was that our business mostly was with external players, not within our region. But if you look at ASEAN, their economy did not suffer the same fate because more than 25% of their GDP is within ASEAN. So this is, we are talking about lessons which we can learn. That is why I think it is important we look at ASEAN through the lens of BIMSTEC, because we already have BIMSTEC. And I think BIMSTEC also should not be a static organization. Now, if we are interested in looking at linking with ASEAN, we already have two countries, that is Myanmar and Thailand. What about Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia? Logically, they are also very close proximity or bordering the Bay of Bengal. So I think we need to look at differently, so to say, out of the box, not really, stay up with what we have. We need to look at the future. Now, in that way, unfortunately, the South Asian region, we were moving very slowly, happily. We did not have a black swan which came out and started swimming faster. But now we have. That is, one is India, the other one is Bangladesh. So now, in South Asia, we have two countries which have broken away and moving rapidly in the path of economic prosperity and development. So this is a good point for us to focus that we also should now follow. We also should plan better. We also should piggyback on these two countries in South Asia. And it is equally important that we look at beyond Bay of Bengal. Now, if we look at the Bay of Bengal and stop it at that, it's not possible for us to be the world powerhouse. Now, again, if we refer to Admiral Mahan, he spoke about Asian power. Quite often we hear about Asian century. 21st century is supposed to be Asian century. But already we have spent 22 years. Where are we in this so-called Asian century? Unless Asia get together, I have a feeling that in my lifetime I may not see the Asian century becoming a reality. That is not a very good point, right? So therefore, I think we must look beyond what we have, and always in the Navy we always believe from time to time we have to check where we are. We take a bearing, we take a range, we have to check where we are, and then alter our course to reach the destination that we want. We know where we want to go. We know where we are. So do the course correction and move on.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you for the question, sir. From my perspective, I think, yeah, I agree with the point that we have reached a already. And that gives us the first opportunity rather than starting for a new idea or something like that. And I would like to again bring in some political perspectives because of my research background maybe. So if you look at the constructivist school of international relations, it always talks about interactions. Now, interaction is very, very important for any kind of diplomacy or negotiation or interactions. Now the question comes, as I started talking about already, how much collaboration do they have with those countries, the ASEAN countries already, or maybe but in particular with Malaysia, Indonesia, and even with Myanmar and Thailand. You know, Bangladesh has been facing lots of issues regarding the Rohingya crisis, and that Rohingya crisis has been a very problematic block there. And if you look at the data analysis within the economics and South Asian integration or Southeast and South Asian integration, they always talk about had the Rohingya crisis not been there, or had the Rohingya crisis been resolved. So that's always there. But we do not have enough integrated approaches from the region or the whole region together to solve that issue. But we can see that if we do not solve that issue, the countries which are basically geopolitically linking to the sides, Bangladesh and Myanmar, it's not going to see the very brighter land. That's the wrong way. The another thing is that our sectoral cooperation, and I love one particular thing about BIMSTEC is that we have different sectors and we have lead countries. And the lead countries, they have shown tremendous transformations or tremendous good initiatives in their particular sectors, but are we taking lessons from ourselves? Or are we even utilizing those? That's the question. Look at the BIMSTEC countries because I was recently looking at some initiatives taken by Thailand regarding the IPO fishing, and they had done tremendous good jobs about IPO regulations and law formation. But if you look at the other countries, we might not have that much of stringent or that much of coordinated policies. Now, it can be very common with other countries. Sometimes we talk about Bhutan and Bangladesh about climate diplomacies, India about connectivity and transport, all the other things. But have we been able to transform that local or domestic initiatives or individual initiatives still to a broader regional form? Even in the case of South Asia, it is not done yet. So now we are talking about an integrated approach towards Southeast Asia as a huge task. And about the Asian century, when I look at the Asian century, it's not about some particular country making advancement in some particular sectors. I think we have talked about inclusive development, holistic approaches, sustainability all together. That century has to be sustainable. An Asian century or Asian integration cannot be in a way that we are together and after 10 or 20 years we are again asking whether we have accomplished enough, whether we have changed the courses, and whether we are struggling to find our identity. Talking about identity, let me talk about another issue about South Asian country. They have taken their initiatives about identity creation, decision making, as well as consensus built from their traditional roots. And this is not something pointed out by me. Many scholars, including Mark Eason, he is a very prominent scholar from Ireland, has pointed this out that these integrated approaches taken from the culture itself. Here we always come together. It's like we always talk about friendship, not even diplomacy or negotiation. There is a different kind of romanticism in the relationship, so it's beyond like traditional partnerships or diplomatic relations. But when we have to do a very integrated approach altogether with the countries, we have to look for that. Are we ready to see a more broader Asian identity? That's very much not addressed yet. We have to look forward to that, and that's the point we should start right now. We have to look forward to an Asian identity, which is not just based on particular country or particular one or two countries which are doing good. We have to include all the countries, and some initiatives are there, but maybe they are not enough. We have to think beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you, Navin. Actually, when you talk of collaboration within it, CPPR held a seminar a few months ago. Now, one of the initiatives that we proposed for India in the East Asia Summit was that of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, where actually we want to create partnerships with like-minded countries across virtually what we talked of from eastern shores of Africa to western Pacific for the development of the region, and it's a non-treaty based, which covers and its 7 pillars include maritime security, maritime ecology, maritime resources, capacity building and resource sharing, disaster and risk reduction management, science, technology, academic cooperation, trade connectivity, and maritime transport. If you look at it, all these issues we discussed today, how BIMSTEC can cooperate. Now, this is one area where we can even look beyond BIMSTEC, and already quite a few nations have come forward. Australia has come in, Thailand has come in to take on various fields, and this is one step I think we could take it forward. Now, before I take it further, may I request the audience, do any questions or observations from your side? I think we could take on one or two from the audience. Otherwise, we just, dialogue between the three of us. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Dennis Josh and I work for Students for Liberty. It's a US-based youth leadership organization. We are a very decentralized network representing more than 107 countries in the world. I was a volunteer and right now I'm a staff member for the organization. I'm an address network partner as well as in a way global partner to the Internet Economic Foundation as well. I really appreciate the conversation that's going on at the panel. So my questions mostly relate to the economic aspect of the BIMSTEC or any organization like SAR, any regional corporation like the SAR. So my question is, first of all, I want to make a small observation as you just mentioned. So in my opinion, countries in the Bay of Bengal are mostly talking about investments and trade as if it's all taken for granted. I don't think countries, this is a personal opinion that I'm having, I don't think countries in the Bay of Bengal are actually trying to attract investment by raising investor confidence across the globe. We're mostly taking it for granted. That's just my opinion. I'm moving forward to my question. So in such a situation, shouldn't we first give substantial focus to increasing economic liberty in this region? Over here, I don't want to talk about ease of doing business in this as such, but I want to rather focus on something more like something ground level like the human freedom index, and most importantly, the economic freedom index. Because those are the things which actually increase investor confidence in any region for that matter. So the follow-up question after that is, what organization like BIMSTEC, or even though we say SARC, as you sir mentioned, I really appreciate that SARC is isolating. So an organization like BIMSTEC or SARC is going to address this ground level issue, the ground level issue of countries in Bay of Bengal having very poor human freedom index or economic freedom index as such, because that's what actually increases the investor confidence in any country whatsoever. So if anyone can comment on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And yes, freedom is very much integrated. That's why we are talking about free, open, interfacetic as well as rule-based policies together. But when we talk about ground level situation, we have to see it from the point of view of both bottom-up and top-down approaches. That's what we were talking about. But you know, for inter-regional organizations, it's not very easy for them to look at the ground realities. They have to collect data from all different organizations and their expert groups, and then they have to make the policies. So for the ground level issues, it's the duty of us, basically the people who work in the research sector and other sectors. So we have to facilitate the researchers at that level. And basically, I agree to that. I was looking at one of the studies about coastal fishing. And the coastal fishing community, it has a wide number of women entrepreneurs, but they do not come along very often. And these small-scale fisheries, they have their own different kind of difficulties and challenges. And maybe an entrepreneur from Thailand, a female entrepreneur from Thailand is facing different challenge compared to the entrepreneur in Bangladesh. But we have to pull them together for these industries. But in those cases, we have to bring in more and more research and more and more data. I think it has been discussed in the conference or the panels in the morning and in the afternoon as well that our basic problem is we do not have enough data about anything. If you want to make a policy, okay, we have the data that the freedom index maybe is poor, they are not performing well. But we have to identify why they are performing well. And the discussion we started basically pointed out that how Sir Mahan's point was not applicable in this region. That's because we are looking at South Asia or we are looking at the realities of the Bay of Bengal from a user-centric or business perspective. So that's also something very important. Even if we are talking about the indexes, those indexes we have to look at whether they are inclusive to our own field of data as well. So what we're suggesting is that we need more South Asian or we need more local and domestic researchers going on at those places and in coordination with other places, for example, maybe Western countries or Southeast Asian countries, and we very importantly need monitoring and evaluation. That's very important because maybe our researches are taking place, but they are not spreading out altogether, and maybe we are not exchanging enough data. That's important. When we have to stick together, we have to build the comprehensive policies. But towards that inclusive and integrated policies or towards the pathway to those, we have to increase our development regarding the institutionalism. And that's what we are talking about because we have the sectors, we have BIMSTEC, we have SARC, we already have them. And if you look at BIMSTEC, BIMSTEC has expert groups and the lead countries, they are supposed to talk to the expert groups and collect data from them, sit together, formulate policies for the countries. And this is where the expert groups are also relevant because they are taking up the ground data. And there are newer communities where they are people from the youth organization as we were talking about. And the youth is a particular community as well. We have been talking about the female entrepreneurs and the youth is there. And the different industries that are coming up. If you look at this, for example, the unicorn industries, about the cyber and tech and everything, that's a completely new area. And the electronic and manufacturing industries, those are very relevant to the South Asian and Southeast Asian people. And let's talk about the academia itself. Because academia and research, it is a sector right now. So we have to think all of this together and we have to take the ground researchers and the point of view, we have to make it in a way that they are together combined. We have to make a circle. And this is why I always talk about building a security community, not just different security institutions, because when we look at community or they
Thank you. We'll take one more question. Observation. Yeah, please.
So, hi, make it brief. I had lunch with Colombo and I find all you guys pretty frank, very unexpected. I thought it was going to be very politically correct. My question is, you yourself admitted, most of you admitted that things are not really happening fast. As he said, 22 years and patience hasn't happened. I think my board is colleague also admitted that more than two countries cannot cooperate. It's going to be a mess. My question to you guys is, what's going to make this happen? I mean, is it a strong leader which makes this collaboration happen fast? Or is it going to be a couple of $1 billion put in to make this happen fast? Or should it be some dramatic lax man event that makes it happen? I mean, something got to give. Otherwise, what Admiral Columbia is apprehensive about to happen 20 years later, we could still be sitting there and talking the same thing. What do you think is going to make this happen much faster?
I thank you, sir, for bringing that point. With my personal experience, what I have seen is this organization, whether it is SAR or BIMSTEC, it is mostly up to whoever the director general in that office, whoever is the staff in that office, to do things, right? But I think, 35 years, 25 years, we have not derived the right results from these organizations, although we have been having summits, senior officers meeting, and all of that has happened. But what is the tangible result for our region? I think this is the question we need to ask. And actually, you prompted me to say, but I was thinking of saying even earlier, I think now our leaders in, let us say, South Asia, they can talk to each other. I think they must now say, okay, let's meet, maybe in Kerala, in a houseboat, all the leaders together, chase away all the staff, and spend one day together, and talk real issues that these countries are facing. I think, as you said, unless there is strong political leadership coming from the head of the state, these organizations will not move. So that's cheating. I mean, for them, that's the director general, the secretariat. They are very happy doing the routine things. I mean, they will produce a report, it is circulating, and nobody knows what happened to the report. So, if the leaders can get together to understand and discuss the real issue and make some decision, and then give it to the secretariat and say, okay, we want progress in 6 months, we want progress in 1 year, measurable, tangible progress, not just reports and reports and reports. So I fully agree with you, sir. Political leadership at the top level is essential.
When we are relying on luck, it may not happen.
Well, we haven't done it yet, but I think it is time has now come to think beyond what we have been doing. And have we done the right thing? Are we economically independent, as the young gentleman asked? The answer is, except for maybe India or Bangladesh, other countries are not. So in that sense, what more can we do?
I think I second that because, but why are we looking at, in all these multilateral international organizations, unless there is a leader, collaboration between leadership, you will find things drift. You just take the example of UN itself. How much of it has been able to achieve, or in any of these sub-organizations? Some steps they take some, so we should be disillusioned. The idea that groups like this are talking and thinking is a way forward. And this again I say, like we talked of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, and I think So I'm sure the leaders today also realize and it will come forward. And the other issue that you brought out also, some of these issues core funding. So if one or two countries take the initiative that this is the starting fund, things will flow. And a point which you mentioned that what the young man asked there, collaboration. Now, if you try to become a manufacturing hub beyond, you will find collaboration taking place. Somebody, one of the countries decided, I will do this, will collaborate with this. So we need to take a safe point, and I think we are running out of time. So I get to think. But we started 10 minutes late. So I would ask my panelists for a last summing up words from their side, and then I will sum it up.
Good again, sir. Now, this is talking about opportunities and challenges, and I would like to take the cue from the last point that has been raised about leadership and other issues. Leadership is one of the features of definitely taking something forward, but the basic understanding of institutionalism is something that it should work even if there is not leadership. So we have to make the institutional structure in a way that it doesn't fall down or it doesn't stumble upon in a way that if there is a gap of leadership, even in one or two countries, it can work in that way. So the broader transnational community or broader South Asian community has to be there. And that's why I've been talking about community that much, because if you look at the Southeast Asia, they have been together and they have been building up a community. The ASEAN has something called the ASEAN community. They have economic community, political security community. Just look at the rhetoric, the languages. The community itself gives a different kind of image, that with the togetherness. But in South Asia, we have been able to build that because we have been integrated together for ages and decades. We have to look forward to that. And about different small issues like if you look at the Southeast Asian regional integrations, you can look at the very first AFTA. In the 1993, there's a built community in 2015. These are all very much issues with the common issues when they talk about Southeast Asian integration. When we look towards that, we have to look at that as well. But again, if you look at the initiatives taken, ASEAN was built in the 1960s and the development went to 1970s and then, but they formulated the FTA in the 1990s. So we have to give them time as well. So the question is, why are we so much negative about our own places? And if we are negative, there is also positive initiatives. In the future, we have to look at all the issues together, and I call it, like the roles we make for combinations and combinations, positives and negatives together. For example, if you look at investment, there is already a negative side coming in, whether it's impacting the climate change. So when we talk about sustainability, we have to put together. We are looking at digital in the future, but then we have to ask ourselves whether our region is ready to address the issue of money laundering, cryptocurrency, and blockchain networks, and all those other negative issues coming with that. You can look at the FATF, which is Financial Action Task Force, and they have Asia Pacific group on money laundering, so it is there. But we do not have groups for all the other non-traditional security threats. Do we have one particular group in the region for climate change? No, we do not have one particular group for illegal fishing, maybe for piracy, but it is can we also think about that. Maybe we build small blocks together, then we go up together and build a broader initiative, or maybe we can look at those together.
You see now, we are like Kerala. Wherever we go, we get a lot of seafood. You go to Bangladesh, you get seafood as well as freshwater fisheries. You come to Sri Lanka, I will invite all of you for a great seafood meal. Now this means that this Indian Ocean is very rich in fish. However, I also say the Indian Ocean is the richest ocean in the world today in maritime strategies. Everyone has a strategy for the Indian and of course together with the Pacific Ocean. Japan has free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. America has Indo-Pacific strategy. ASEAN has ASEAN outlook for Indo-Pacific strategy. Australia has one. Global Britain from UK, Germany, France, EU, South Korea. They all have a strategy Indian Ocean together with Pacific Ocean. Now, ladies and gentlemen, where is our strategy? Where is Bay of Bengal strategy? This is like that someone is arranging a marriage without asking the bride or the groom. Now, this is why I like to propose that it is high time. I'm not saying any of these strategies that I mentioned are negative, not at all. It is needed because they have decided to have a strategy and they go along that. But it is high time that because we live here, we understand the problem, the impact will come to us first, more than outside. So it is in our interest for us to have our own strategy for this week. We cannot have an Indian Ocean wide strategy. At least let us have one for the Bay of Bengal, and institutions like National Maritime Foundation, BIPRED in Bangladesh, CPPR here can work together and come out with an Bay of Bengal maritime strategy. That's my final point.
Thank you. I think that was very well put. So, I think we are generally in agreement that we need to work together and make things move. Here, I would like to sum up by quoting what again Prime Minister Modi said at the Maritime India Summit last year. He said, we want to share our best practices with the world. We are open to learning from best global practices. Continue with the focus on trade and economic linkage with BIMSTEC and IOR nation. India plans to enhance investment in infrastructure and facilitate mutual agreements by 2026. So one of the things he spoke of was renewable energy. So on this note, I would like to end here and say that we will wind up now because all good things have to come to an end. I would like to especially thank CPPR as well as 7M for giving us this opportunity to interact over the last 2 days and for this particular session. Please join me in giving both institutions and their heads are here a big hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Henry Williamson, Admiral Jayannath Palmade, and Mr. Yamrita Savir for this discussion. The plenary session was indeed equivalent to tide and geopolitical nuisance in the tide knot, and emphasizing the importance of coming together as a region for collaboration and cooperation. I would now like to invite Admiral Jayannath Palmade to give mementos to our panelists as token of appreciation. Vice Admiral Henry Williamson. Mr. Yamrita Savir. May I request the panelists to come forward for a photograph?